Hey Hebrew fans, this is Todd. So today we're going to talk about the origins of these three right here. We have Evil-Lyn, Beastman, and Tri-Klops. So let's go and talk about this really strange origin story that Filmation came up with that actually kind of explains how they got here. So I happen to have right here the Filmation Bible, and this is kind of interesting in that it is what Mike Halpern wrote, and it's supposed to be something that any of the animators read, or the story writers read, before they start writing the stories. And you can see it is chock full of lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of information. So I just took one small excerpt from this, and it is the story of how these three came to be. And I'm still trying to find the beginning of it. I'm really close. These pages are stuck together. Oh, there it is. Okay. So here's the story right here. It starts right here and continues on. And instead of me just reading this to you, because it's kind of boring to hear me read this for the whole entire time, I'm actually going to show you a video I put together that kind of uses a bunch of AI for pictures and shows and talks about the story and where they came from. So let's go ahead and watch that now.
An excerpt from Masters of the Universe Bible, written by Michael Halpern.
In another universe, an event took place which had become almost prosaic. A space shuttle was about to be launched from the third planet of a minor solar system on the edge of an insignificant galaxy called the Milky Way.
The shuttle pilot, Marlena Glenn, young, attractive, and a brilliant scientist, donned her spacesuit, climbed into the pilot's seat, and waited for her three crewmates to belt in.
The three others loitered in the ready room until the very last minute.
Evil-Lyn Powers, brilliant chemist, physicist, and biologist, was insanely jealous of Marlena. Evil-Lyn knew she should have been named pilot for the mission and cried within her heart an almost fanatical hatred for the person sitting at the shuttle's controls. Chief Technician Biff Beastman resented the whole shuttle program because it relegated him to the status of gopher. Had he known his role in the project, he would have returned to his small farm where at least he could rule despotically power the animals. Noted scientist Dr. T. E. Scope, inventor of numerous optic devices, rounded out the crew. After many attempts to get aboard a shuttle, his application finally had been accepted. He knew they despised him for his brain, and he swore that one day he would get even with all those little people who tried to deny him fame and fortune. The voice of space control rang out calling for them to board the ship. Many changes had taken place since the early shuttle flights leaped into space piggybacked to three enormous solid-fuel rockets. Now the shuttle taxied down a runway using ordinary jet engines. Once it reached the edge of the stratosphere, its own boosters cut in, flinging the craft into cislunar space, where its ion drive engines took over for the almost speed-of-light trip to the other planets. As the shuttle rumbled down the runway, the crew and support team could not have known or foreseen coming events. The cataclysmic explosion on Infinita had been traveling through the void of space for 1,000 years, and now it approached the edge of another universe just as the space shuttle's ion engines hummed to life.
The craft aimed its nose at Europa, one of Jupiter's asteroids. The flight was uncomplicated and ordinary,
save for the tension between the crew, with the ion engines forcing the shuttle to move to the limit of endurable speed.
Europa came within view in only a few days. Marlena placed the craft in orbit around the asteroid, and the crew plotted the landing pattern.
Suddenly, the shockwave from Infinita tore away at the very fabric of their universe. The spacecraft spun out of its orbit, and the crew slammed against the bulkheads like so many ping-pong balls inside a bottle. The ship cartwheeled toward a rip in space and fell through the interspace voice, only to reappear in the sky above Eternia.
Marlena staggered to her feet and lurched to the captain's chair. She called out to the others. No one answered. And when she looked, only the spacesuits remained mute, empty, and wrinkled. Little time remained to brood as the shuttle shot into the Eternian ion sphere, glowing red, yellow, and white. She nosed the craft up and bounced off the layer of air, slowing the vehicle for a smoother re-entry. Marlena couldn't spot any runways for the shuttle, so she aimed the ship at the only clear spot she saw, a long meadow in a lush, green valley.
The spacecraft hit the ground, its landing gear crumpled on impact, and it sank to its belly, skidding, pitching, and crashing to a wrenching stop. Unconscious, Marlena couldn't know the helping hands pulling her out of the wreckage and carrying her to the royal palace of the reigning king of Eternia, the young and handsome Randor. For several days she slept in the palace, and each day Randor sat by her bedside and waited for her to wake. All the royal physicians and wizards provided potions and spells in order to ensure her well-being, and soon color stirred in Marlena's cheeks. On the 7th day her eyes fluttered open, and the first sight she saw was Randor's rugged, handsome face. A spark flew between them as he reached out his fingers to touch her hand, and they both smiled. Meanwhile, the other members of the crew found themselves on the charred, misshapen surface of Infinita.
The evil power of the planet seeped into their bones, causing their true personalities to emerge even as they lay there. Within minutes their physical forms began to change, more in keeping with the rulers and slaves of Infinita. Evil-Lyn Power's jealousy helped transform her knowledge of physics, chemistry, and biology into sorcery for every evil purpose as she became the sorceress Evil-Lyn. Biff Beastman's cruel nature spilled on the outside, and he became a true beast man with a lion's mane, fangs, and the power to communicate and command bloodthirsty creatures such as dragons, gorgons, ogres, and snakes. Dr. T's scope transformation changed that small, mean man into a brute with 3 eyes called Tri-Klops, a man with 3 eyes who could see, not only during the day, but in the dark and around corners with his gamma vision. A new vitality soared through their veins
as they woke their new bodies to the horrid laughter of Infinita's remaining ruler, the evil, megalomaniacal, power-mad monster, Skeletor. Beneath his eyes peered at them from the dark sockets of his skull face, and his voice rang hollowly from the recesses of his bony jaws. In his hand he grasped the black, ram-headed Havoc staff. He knew they were the minions he needed to break the space portal seal so he could invade and conquer Eternia. On the other hand, Evil-Lyn, Beast-Man, and Tri-Klops recognized Skeletor as their device for wreaking vengeance throughout the universe.
Skeletor led them to his lair beneath the twin peaks of Snake Mountain. Around one of the crags twisted a terrible carved snake. A portal along the snake's back until it reached the fanged mouth.
Entrance here entrapped the incautious stranger, for once a person stepped into the snake's jaws, they snapped shut, thrusting the trespasser into almost inescapable dungeon.
A footbridge connected one mountain with the other, where a blood-red waterfall cascaded over crags, past blasted trees and murky swamps. Skeletor's chamber hid behind bloodfalls, and only he knew its entrance, its traps, and snares. The lair itself was a dark cavern dripping with venom.
In one corner, its eyes blazing red, its tail twitching, sat Skeletor's pet and charger, the giant cat panther. Its purple fur glistened as its muscles rippled when it stretched out iron claws from the mighty paws.
Skeletor waved his staff, and a charge of energy sprang forth, rolling back a huge boulder from one wall, uncovering a screen. A wave of his hand, and a picture swam into view, a picture of Eternia, then that of King Randor and Marlena. At the sight of the former captain, the trio snarled and clenched their fists, and it wasn't lost on Skeletor.
I see you feel as I do. You'd like to invade Eternia and conquer it. My reasons are simple enough. Infinita can no longer sustain life. We need Eternia's air and food, and I intend to take it by force. If you are with me, we can accomplish our aim. But before we do, we must break through the space portal sealed centuries ago against my ancestors. Once that's done, we'll wipe out that simpering Eternian goodness, and our dark powers will reign over all Eternia, over all the universe.
All right, so how crazy is that these 3 here were actually astronauts? I mean, that just... I had no idea. They never show in the Filmation cartoon. They don't talk about it at all. It's like, that is so bizarre. And to think that we had Captain Glenn as an astronaut, and then, of course, I made this cool custom figure of her as just Captain Glenn, ready for action. And, oh, her back is not closed all the way. Her butt's hanging out. Let me go and fix that. There we go, before I turn her around. Don't turn me around yet. My bloomers are open. There we go. There we go. Now it's just about closed. Anyway, But how cool is that she was an astronaut? And we know this from Filmation that she was an astronaut, but they don't ever talk about these guys being astronauts. Let's go and watch this Filmation clip, and I'll walk through it with you guys. So this is Marlena's ship, and she's flying through, and she's trying to control it. It's out of control. It's spinning crazy towards Eternia. There's King Randor hanging out. He goes, hey, there's a ship crash. Let's go check it out. And he gets there and finds her, picks her up, and ooh. And then she wakes up, and she realizes she's in his arms, kind of a little lightheaded. He puts her down, and then later on, they end up getting married. This is later on, after they have Prince Adam. She hops in a rocket ship, takes off to go save her family from Skeletor, shoots a missile into the window before flying out, saves them, and then everyone's so shocked at who she is when she pulls her helmet off. Huh? Who's that? I can't believe my eyes. And yep, it's me. And they're all surprised that Marlena was the Rainbow Warrior. And they say goodbye. So you can see in that Filmation clip that sure enough, she is an astronaut. But again, they didn't mention these guys at all. So as I was talking about this in one of my videos, someone said, but wait, Todd, there's actually a golden book out there that talks about these guys with that story. I'm like, what? Really? So they told me what the name of it was. And before we jump to that book, I want to show you this right here. In all the beginning of these golden books right here, in this first section, it starts off with once upon a time, a rocket from Earth crashed far, far away. The pilot found herself lost on the planet Eternia. Eternia looked like Earth, but magic and strange beasts and wonderful machines filled this world. The Earth woman Marlena married Eternia's King Randor. They had a son, Prince Adam, and it goes on to explain the story of He-Man and Prince Adam and Marlena and everything else, which is kind of cool. But anyway, in this book right here, the new champions of Eternia, look at that. It shows He-Man in his battle armor. That's pretty cool, but nowhere in the book does it show his battle armor. But anyway, as you go through the book, I'm not going to cover it all, but there's some things going on in here, and Skeletor's tired of losing all the time, and so he comes up with a plan, and then this is kind of strange. In the middle of nowhere, Man-at-Arms has a dream about being adopted father of Teela. Kind of strange, but okay. And then they get in a fight with Skeletor and Evil-Lyn and Beast-Man, and it's a big old hours-long battle. There's Tri-Klops down there in the corner. Big old long battle. And then they disappear in a puff of smoke. But this puff of smoke seems a little suspicious, like they actually destroyed them, not just had them disappear. So then later on, these four characters show up, and He-Man goes, who goes there, friend or foe? And so then we have these four new characters that appear, and they have the most unusual names. I'm looking at these names going, they sound like biblical names. We have Potskrill, we have Abstanum. Sounds like abstinence. And then we have Novella, and then we have this last guy. My name is either Steelorc or Steel Orc. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. These are my friends. It's like, okay, they're your friends, but who are you? So as they continue on, they show their great and mighty feats. He saves He-Man from this blade and everything else. And the people all love them. They're awesome new heroes. And they meet the king and queen. And as they're meeting the king and queen, all of a sudden the queen notices something about them. And she says, I think I know, says the queen. Listen to my story. I was not born on Eternia. Once I was a space pilot on a mission from a faraway planet. Due to the evil of my crew, we were lost in space. Woo, 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 lost in space. And fell into a portal leading to this universe. When we crash landed, I fell on the side of Eternia, which is where I was rescued by the good King Randor, who later asked me to marry him. My crew fell to the dark side of Eternia, and I never heard from them again. Until, I think, this day. And you could see them all paratrooping in. There's King Randor saving her. There's a lot more astronauts in that picture than she talked about. On the Queen's order, the battle helmets of those people, I'm not going to say their names again, were pulled off. And she says, I thought I recognized your voices, the Queen said, and now I recognize your faces. You're really Evil-Lyn Powers, a scientist from my crew, Biff Beastman, our technician, and Dr. Scope, also a scientist. Yes, cried the three, as the startling changes occurred. But on Eternia, we joined the great power and became Evil-Lyn. Dun dun dun! Beastman. Oh. And Tri-Klops. Oh, it's just, I think would spin a little easier. Now his head's spinning around instead. Keep your head facing forward, man. He's like an owl. His head's not supposed to go around, just his visor on top. But you guys get the idea. Don't fall. Don't fall. Oh, he's going to fall. Okay, let's try this again. Stand. Stand, man. I can't stand. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go. All right. So, then the story continues, and you find out that Skeletor is the last of the four guys, and he transforms back to Skeletor and continues his battle with He-Man. I don't know how I didn't notice, but look at their names right here. Here's all their names. The first one, Steerlark. Let's rearrange the letters, and it is Skeletor. The next one, not be able to say it, change the letters, and it's Evil-Lyn. And the next one's Amsterdam, or whatever it is. You change it, and it's Beastman. And the last one, Post-Skrill, and you change your Pot-Skrill, and it's Tri-Klops. Their names were right there in front of me the whole entire time. I didn't even see it. Crazy. All right, and that's pretty much the book as they continue their battle. And, of course, good guys win. But it's so crazy, that story of them being astronauts from Earth. I mean, we saw in 2000X, we saw that Beastman came from a village of Beastmen. You know, we see in the comic book, Origins comic book about them all. And not the case. He was transformed. And then we saw that Tri-Klops was a blind swordsman, you know, and again, not the case. He was a short scientist, kind of nerdy, and invented all kinds of scopes and things like that. And then we saw that Evil-Lyn was the daughter of the Faceless One, and, you know, again, different storyline. So it's just crazy that the storyline has never really come out in a lot of the comics. I mean, that's the only book I've seen the storyline in, was the one where it shows that they were pretending to be somebody else than who they are, which was really who they were to begin with. Look at this cool custom. Ho, 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 ho. Anyway, now you guys see my custom. So, I want to know what you guys think. Do you like the storyline of these three being astronauts from Earth? Or do you like the storyline of a bunch of beastmen and a blind swordsman and the Faceless One's daughter? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys think and what you say, but it's kind of fun to see what everybody comes up with. And again, let me know what you think about my custom figures too. All right, and that is it. And like they say in the 1987 movie, not goodbye, but good journey. Bye now.
If you found enjoyment, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Do it.